I want to just bring one more thing up because I work in the media. This is
Hmm.
the part where I have to ask you about Don Lemon and
Yes, you do.
pretend, because I'm in the media, that Don
Hmm.
Lemon's firing is exactly the same as Tucker Carlson's firing.
Because it is. It's very much the same thing.
But did you get that? You
Again,
see this? Now do Don Lemon. Now do Don Lemon. Do you know any liberals who are outraged by the firing of Don? I mean, I know Don. I like him. Do you know any liberals who are saying I'll never watch CNN again because they fired Don Lemon? No, because liberals
mm-mm,
aren't a damn cult.
they're not a cult. And in the end, recognize that sometimes people got to go. And on this side of the fence and on the aisle, this group of folks are very quick to get rid of folks that are not hitting the moral high ground mark. They're not, towing a good line, and they
Yeah,
have no qualms about letting them go and telling us why we're letting them go. Versus these other idiots that let these people do all these horrible things and they keep them around. So,
yeah.
uh, you know, I, I feel bad for Don Lemon because ultimately, in the end, like they were kind of pushing this interview that he did recently with some Indian
With
American
Vivek.
candidate,
Yeah,
and how he was pushing back in that interview with that person. And I was like,
yeah,
well, that's the problem. It's like nobody's pushing back at anybody in these interviews. And when you finally have
yeah.
someone who's brave enough to do it and do it before they become the big presidential candidate hopeful, like, let me call you on your shit right now before you
Yeah.
get in front of another national audience spouting it.
I mean, they
And
were phasing Don out for a while.
and they were
They, I mean,
and
they
he's been like, he's that
he's had
employee that they've had a lot of written warnings about
a lot of
upstairs.
written warnings. Yeah, it's true. And he's,
And
look, it takes a lot to get me to defend Nikki Haley, Keith. It takes a lot for me to defend Nikki Haley. But I thought, saying she's past her prime, I'm like, do you know where you work?
yeah,
what are you thinking?
yeah,
So
it's
it
like,
just, and the biggest factor all of all, I think, is I'm sure Don has been at the channel for so long. I've done a show many times.
mhm,
His salary was probably massive, and
of
probably
course,
they're cost cutting all over the place over there. I
exactly,
think Don was a victim of low ratings, and Tucker was a victim of Tucker's inherent douchiness.
exactly, and neither the train shall meet. But
Yeah.
but in the end, it is someone who, in the end, could his tenaciousness as an actual journalist of sorts and interviewer and all that other jazz could still have a lot of influence.
Who,
Like,
Don?
I
Don?
Don Lemon
Yeah.
can still continue to have influence because most people are thinking that he's been wrongly fired. There's women that are
No,
very
most
still
people don't
angry with him.
care. Most people don't care.
That's true, but but the ones who, like, I saw someone today who I didn't suspect would be someone that was like by Don Lemon, but her response was because of that Nikki Haley thing. She's
Yeah,
like, and
that's it.
and the sad thing is like that is, to me, he sounded like he was just had a little too much Chardonnay and he was hanging out with the boys and talking smack. And that smack, that's the kind of smack that you would have heard with a bunch of queens sitting in a room being
Yeah, well,
catty.
you
And
will
he
never
just,
hear me speculate about catty things that gay black men who like to drink might say. I've learned my lesson, and I will not cross that line,
because
sir.
you know how we can be. So, and that's the thing. And that's the thing. Like he, in the end, that kind of comment was probably, like that's like the Chardonnay based sassy
So
edible
funny.
out on Fire Island comment with the boys versus in front of a hot
Yeah.
microphone in front of a news camera.
Well, it's
And
also the
and, and
difference of
that's the
going from
difference.
your own primetime show with your name on it to being one of
Right.
three people on a morning show. I mean, God only
Right.
knows what he was struggling with. So I'm
You
sure
know,
both. Yeah. I look.
but
You
he'll
can
be
say
he'll
that.
be fine. He's another one who he will be fine.
I
Like
think
he'll
Don may have fucked up and made mistakes, but he wasn't an evil, lying, racist, homophobe
absolutely. And
dick.
that's the
Yeah.
thing. And that will count way more for time over time than Tucker Carlson and the history
Yeah.
that we know him for.
It'll
So
count more with St. Peter too. We have a lot of riffraff who want to say hi. Comedy Daddy, are you ready to
let's
take
do it.
on?
Let's do it.
Let's welcome our evil army of the night. Sela
Here we
is
go.
calling from Texas. Sela, good evening and welcome. You're
Oh,
on
my Sela.
Progress.
Hey, girl.